just kept going and going.
A high-speed chase ends in flames as neighbors look on.
You see him in the video run, jump, push. Like it was crazy.
What happened after the crash that left police and witnesses in shock?
A car crashed into one West Jordan mom's home right when she knew her daughter was walking home from school, why she's now hoping for change.
Tracking extreme heat and clear sky here across the region. What you can expect for the holiday.
The little Cottonwood gondola now one step closer to becoming a reality.
They need to benefit all county residents, not just ski resorts.
From UDOT backing the project to the strong reaction from a community, we have team coverage tonight.
It took me a minute to kind of process the fact that my musical idols were standing right next to me.
A Utah team takes the stage with The Killers. But this moment was more than just a rock dream come true.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
New tonight, a police chase ended in a fiery explosion after officers tried to catch a man who they believe stole a truck and trailer.
Take a look at this. Pictures and videos show the vehicle in flames after crashing last night. And get this, the driver spent minutes sitting in the fiery truck, revving the engine and refusing to get out.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser is in South Jordan tonight after speaking to witnesses who still cannot believe what they saw. Emily.
Bob Kelly, you can still see the burn marks on the concrete here in the South Jordan parking lot. 39-year-old Trent Kesher was arrested and faces multiple charges, including failure to stop at law enforcement command, transferring a stolen vehicle, and reckless burning. It's a police pursuit that bystanders and even law enforcement have never seen before.
Just kind of a crazy situation.
Exhilarating, nauseating, insane. It was just crazy.
Couple Denham Blackham and Alyssa Brown keep replaying the videos from Tuesday night.
Now he jumps out of the truck. He's running. You can actually see this canine latch onto his back leg.
Unified police officers spotted this stolen truck and trailer in the Mill Creek area and laid out a spike strip in hopes of stopping it.
Just kept going and going to the point where the tires fell off and he was driving on rims.
Sergeant Melody Cutler says the driver, Trent Kesher, crashed in the Zions Bank parking lot in the Daybreak area. The car caught on fire, but he stayed inside.
You can watch as that fire continues to move forward up into the back seat of that vehicle.
Minutes later, he makes a break for it.
There he goes.
And a random bar patron steps in.
You see him in the video run, jump, push. Like it was crazy.
Officers arrested him with the stolen truck still in flames.
I don't think they would have caught that guy without the intervention that man had.
That man in the yellow shirt was actually bitten by a police canine after intervening. Sergeant Cutler says in these types of situations, it's best to just stay back, give some space, and let the officers do their job. Now, during the chase, there was actually a passenger inside that truck. They told officers they couldn't get out because of the erratic driving. So Kesher also faces aggravated kidnapping charges. Reporting live in South Jordan, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A West Jordan family shaken and concerned tonight after a car came crashing through their fence and into their backyard.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us why the neighbors are hoping for change on the street.
Around 3:30 this afternoon, Belen Giarusso was at home waiting for her daughter Alexa to come home from school.
We heard a big boom.
She ran outside to find her fence and part of her tool shed crushed. A car had rammed into the tree in her backyard.
The first thing we thought of was the kids getting out of school. We thought one of the kids had been hit.
Giarusso and her family live within 1,000 feet of Columbia Elementary School. She knew her daughter was walking home after dismissal when she heard the crash.
It's just happening too often where cars are crashing into houses, kids on the sidewalk. It's just really scary.
Just days after two young siblings in Provo were hit and killed by a car while walking to school, Giarusso says she and her neighbors want the speed limit on 7800 South to be reduced near the school.
It's 40, but people are not going 40. They go a lot faster, and there is no school zone sign on 78. So accidents are actually happening here very often.
West Jordan police told Fox 13 the driver was an older man coming east on 7800 South when he confused his brake pedal with the gas and turned down Giarrusso Street.
This is a touchy subject, but with him being older, maybe there need to be some rules with older people still driving.
Giarrusso says this isn't the first time an accident has happened in her neighborhood, but she hopes it's the last.
We just think something needs to be done because it's just happening too often.
In West Jordan, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
After years of studying potential solutions, UDOT has finally settled on favoring a gondola option for the traffic congestion in Little Cottonwood Canyon.
The gondola would be phased in, starting from Lakai Restaurant at the base of the canyon and going all the way up to Snowbird and Alta. UDOT says this process, which would change the canyon for generations to come, is just the beginning.
It's the next step. We're releasing it for a 45-day comment period. And in here, we've now narrowed down to what we're calling Gondola B with a phased-in approach. And so our intent is to begin with running buses on the existing roads in both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons, build a mobility center, improve trailhead parking, and make other improvements.
There are many sides to this gondola debate to examine, and we will do just that in team coverage coming up at 9:30.
Well, we are heading into a holiday weekend, typically Labor Day, the end of summer. It's certainly not going to feel like that, Allison.
No, we're going to continue with the record heat here across the state today. We made it to 102 here in Salt Lake City, which made it the 27th time this year that we've hit that century mark. We were just smashing the old record of 21 days in the triple digits in any one year. So we beat the daily high today, we beat the triple digit record today, and we also beat another record for the number of days over 95 degrees. We're now up at 56 times. So our heat alerts here across Utah, heat warnings have been issued Thursday through Labor Day for lower Washington County, for the St. George area, up towards Snow Canyon. Into the overnight temperatures here along the Wasatch Front, 60s and 70s when you wake up on Thursday morning with mostly clear sky. 10 o'clock tonight, 70s and 80s, then 60s and 70s early tomorrow morning here across the state for Thursday morning with more heat on the way. So we're going to have temperatures into the 90s after lunch tomorrow. Hazy conditions will continue. We'll talk more about air quality forecasts over the next couple of days, plus a look at your UV index and a temperature outlook for the next 2 weeks.
Thanks, Allison. BYU Athletics has called into question the claims of racial slurs being shouted at a Duke volleyball player, Rachel Richardson. In a statement, the athletics department says, quote, the person who was banned was the person identified by Duke as using racial slurs. However, we have been unable to find any evidence of that person using slurs in the match. We have stated that if there is anyone who has a photo or video evidence of a perpetrator of racial slurs from Friday night, we would welcome that information. Fox 13 News obtained a police report which names in it they have been redacted. However, that report says the fan who was banned approached a Duke volleyball player after the game on Friday. The player reported the fan got in her face and the interaction made her uncomfortable. Police add they spoke with that fan, a Utah Valley University student. However, he denied shouting any slurs, but admitted he did approach the player, saying he thought she was a friend of his.
The Davis County Sheriff's Office has arrested a Utah-based social media group founder for alleged rape and sexual assault of multiple victims at various social gatherings he coordinated. 45-year-old Kevin Linford was arrested at Salt Lake International Airport yesterday. The Sheriff's Office believes Linford may have assaulted additional victims at other events as well.
The reason that our investigation was able to work so swiftly was because we did have victims come forward. And we really want to emphasize that we appreciate these victims. We know that what they went through was a very difficult thing. And without their cooperation, without them letting us know that this was taking place, our office may not have heard about it. And so So we appreciate
If you have information that can help this investigation, call the number on your screen, 801-451-4150. There are also victim advocate services available with the Sheriff's Office. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For those services, call 801-451-4156.
Former President Trump's legal team says an independent arbiter is still necessary to review the documents that were seized in Mar-a-Lago, despite the Justice Department's argument that it could impede their investigation. I'm Mallory Rivera in Washington with the details coming up.
Coming up, we'll hear from the Utah and BYU football teams. Jaron Hall will tell us how the trust from his coaches has made him a better quarterback.
And it was a dream come true for one Utah teen who went to see his favorite band, The Killers, in concert last night.
Why this life-changing moment to play with his idols means so much. A merger announced today should help potential homebuyers in Salt Lake City get into a house.
NeighborWorks Salt Lake is a nonprofit organization that builds and sustains neighborhoods. It helps prospective buyers with everything from securing loans and down payments to buying and maintaining a home. The merger is with Fair Credit Foundation, which works with people to repay debt and build their credit rating.
This merger is critical for NeighborWorks Salt Lake and Fair Credit because it's an opportunity to bring an expertise to the organization that we've been trying to build on for the last 5 years. And I think for Fair Credit, we bring to the table a housing aspect that they currently don't have.
Both sides say the merger is a win-win and will create more robust services for individuals and families.
There is a brand new school in Grantsville. Also, a brand new four-way stop is now in place. And it appears a lot of motorists in Grantsville are not aware of the new signs, at least perhaps not yet. They are in the intersection of Durfee and Worthington Streets.
Last night was the first night that they were up and functioning, and it was pretty out of control that first night. I think even when officers were there, they said at least 30 people that just went right through without slowing down at all.
Yeah, police say some of the cars went through the intersection at 40 miles an hour or faster. There have been no accidents, luckily, and Sergeant Watson says today it was much better. Crews put traffic cones down the center of the roads leading to the intersection. Also, they put an extra stop sign right in the middle of the road.
Weather permitting, NASA will launch Artemis 1 on Saturday. Monday's planned launch was scrubbed after engineers discovered a bleed test failure that indicated one of the engines was too hot. A team of BYU researchers is in Florida to study the launch. They'll be measuring sound levels and taking acoustic measurements to create models to predict the effect of future rocket launches on the surrounding environment.
We've set up microphones all around Kennedy Space Center, and we are trying to understand the levels and the frequencies which it produces noise, because we don't have a good understanding of rocket noise in general.
The BYU team recently debunked a common myth about NASA's Saturn V launches in the 1960s and 70s. That myth was that the blast was so loud it melted concrete and started grass fires. The BYU study found that not to be the case.
It's been so hot here in Utah, I'm wondering if concrete's going to start to melt.
And grass fires start, yeah.
Close to 110 here across the state for southern Utah in the 7-day forecast, and across northern Utah, we're close to 100 to 105 for the next week. So heat wave rolls on as we head into the holiday weekend, Labor Day weekend, typically winding down summer. And today we not only had a daily record high with 102 for our high today, we also ended up obviously reaching that century mark. So we've set a record for the number of triple-digit days as well. We continue to beat that record, and we'll continue beating that over the course of the next week. The sun went down at 8:01. Sun will rise tomorrow morning a little before 7 a.m. So today was our 27th time this year at or above 100 degrees. So it's a new record. Before this year, the record was 21 with an average of 8 triple-digit days a year. And it was our 56th time over 95 degrees. Old record was 54 times in 1 year, set back in 2013. So here's what you can expect tomorrow for commuting along the Wasatch Front. Temperatures will be in the 70s tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, really hot. So if the kids are walking home from school tomorrow, I would definitely make sure that they're staying hydrated when they get home. Loose fitting clothing, that's what you're going to send them out the door in the morning in, and maybe even bring a hat, sunscreen, because our UV index will be very high for tomorrow. Salt Lake City through the rest of tonight, we're going to keep our temperatures into the 70s for most of the night. Tomorrow we're going to have highs again around 100 degrees. So overnight temps right around 70 with mostly clear sky here along the Wasatch Front. Overnight here across Utah, 60s and 70s. And then Salt Lake City tomorrow, temperatures triple digits again with mostly sunny sky. Chance of precipitation is really low in St. George over the next week. What we're going to be watching for you will continue to be mainly dry conditions. For Ogden, maybe a few isolated showers into tomorrow here across the state. It's not very likely, but it's a possibility because some of those popping up. Provo, same thing, a generally very dry week, but might see a few isolated storms tomorrow. Very isolated. For St. George, around 105 to 110 heading into Labor Day weekend. So we continue with dangerous heat, especially for those of you who are in town visiting, not quite acclimated to temperatures like this, like those who live in St. George. So get out early. Temperatures around 75 to 80 for overnight lows. And then for the Wasatch Front, our temperatures are going to be close to 100 degrees every single day through our 7-day forecast. Coming up later in the hour, we'll take a look at what you can expect for temperatures through week 2.
Allison, thank you. This is a sad night for us here at Fox 13. We received word this evening that Al Schultz, who was chief engineer of KSTU Fox 13 News for nearly 40 years, has passed away.
Al literally put this television station on the air 44 years ago. He retired in 2017. Al moved to Utah from Springfield, Massachusetts to get TV 20, as we were known as back then, on the air. And with him guiding all the technical aspects of the TV station from that time forward, he navigated our transition from one technology to the next, from videotape to digital technology and beyond. No one had more of an impact on the quality of the picture you see at home from us than Al Schultz. He also pioneered the establishment of translator stations around the state, bringing free TV to every corner of Utah. It is impossible to overstate his importance to Fox 13.
Tim Ermish, vice president and general manager of KSTU Fox 13, said tonight, quote, "We've lost the true architect of Fox 13, Al Schultz, our chief engineer for almost 40 years. He was here at the beginning in 1978 when we were broadcasting as Channel 20, airing children's programming. Now we are airing more than 60 hours of news a week. We could never have brought this much local news to our great state if it not for the behind-the-scenes hard work and vision of Al Schultz. And while we will miss his great spirit, his legacy will literally live on in the airwaves of Fox 13. In national news, former President Donald Trump's legal team has filed a response to a historic filing from the Department of Justice. It alleges the former president's aides may have obstructed an investigation into classified records at his Florida home.
In a push for transparency, the Trump team maintains an independent party is necessary to review the documents. Fox's Madeline Rivera has the latest from Washington.
Even before formally responding to a Tuesday filing from the Justice Department, former President Trump slammed the FBI in a post on Truth Social, calling the photo that the DOJ released of classified documents scattered on the floor deceiving. In their filing, the former president's attorneys go into further detail, saying the notion that presidential records would contain sensitive information should have never been cause for alarm and should not have led to a search of his home.
I think they know that all of this was done the wrong way. They look really bad right now.
The DOJ says the top secret records in this photo were recovered from a container in the former president's office, a fraction of more than 100 classified materials the FBI found in Mar-a-Lago on August 8th. Now the department is calling into question whether the Trump team performed a, quote, diligent search of the property to turn over highly sensitive items after receiving a subpoena in May. In a stunning allegation, the DOJ says government records were likely concealed and removed from the storage room and that efforts were likely taken to obstruct the government's investigation.
I wish the Bureau would have put out right after this raid, because this is the kind of information that stops this runaway train from happening.
The DOJ's filing stems from an effort to oppose former President Trump's request for a third party to review the materials that were taken, saying it could impede the investigation. But former President Trump's legal aides argue an independent arbiter is still necessary for transparency, adding that a fair-minded DOJ that truly embraced the highest ethical standards would and should agree. The high-stakes hearing over whether a special master should be appointed is set for Thursday. In Washington, Martha Rivera, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It's a traffic problem that's been narrowed down to one divisive plan.
After years of study, UDOT makes a big decision on gondolas in Little Cottonwood Canyon.
There are some things the county can do.
Hear reactions from residents who live near Little Cottonwood Canyon about what they think of the gondola project moving forward.
We are totally opposed to a gondola.
We go in depth on why UDOT made the recommendation, the impact on the canyon, and where the project goes from here after the break.
Welcome back, everyone. As we reported earlier, UDOT has now taken a big step toward building a gondola in Little Cottonwood Canyon.
We have team coverage of what it means and reaction from people both for and against it. We start with Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow.
At the end of the day, the gondola proved to be the most reliable in terms of getting people up, the safest.
UDOT's environmental impact study recommends a gondola option for dealing with the increasingly crowded Little Cottonwood Canyon.
If you look at the capital cost, the gondola is more expensive than just the buses, but if you look at life cycle over a 30-year life cycle period, gondola is actually a cheaper alternative.
The gondola option would start near Lakai and go up to Snowbird and Alta ski resorts.
We've now narrowed down to what we're calling Gondola B with a phased-in approach.
That phased-in approach includes buses and other transit options before a gondola is even built.
I'm not happy that they have given preference to a gondola, but I am very pleased that UDOT has been listening to me and the community.
Salt Lake County Mayor Jenny Wilson favors more public transit options over a gondola. She's not alone.
I'm disappointed, to be honest. The gondola is an excellent tourist attraction, but really it's not solving the problems that we have talked about up in the canyons.
The Salt Lake County Council chair says UDOT hasn't considered other options. While Little Cottonwood is a state road and on federal land, the county can exercise some influence over the project.
There are some things the county can do, and I know the mayor's looking at that. I know the council's looking at it, and we'll be having those discussions coming up.
Mayor Wilson says now is the time for the public to speak up, with UDOT launching another 45-day comment period.
I have a call to action to the public, and that is please go to the UDOT website. If you share my concerns over cost and over impact to the canyon, file a report.
The gondola proposal has certainly gotten a lot of feedback. Let me show you. This is the study that UDOT just completed. All of this, well, That's the public comment that came in over it. More than 14,000 comments.
We want to hear, we want to listen, we want to understand.
On Capitol Hill, Governor Spencer Cox says he supports what UDOT recommends, adding these measures will address current and future needs of the canyon while preserving the beautiful Wasatch Mountains for future generations of Utahns. The legislature will ultimately be asked to fund any gondola project. Two lawmakers who represent the canyon area have mixed opinions on it.
If we're going to have taxpayer-funded transportation projects, they need to benefit all county residents, not just ski resorts. I hope that UDOT will reconsider this decision.
I'm honestly indifferent on this. I mean, I like to get the public input, public support, and so my commitment has been that when and if this ever comes to the legislature for funding, which again is several years away, that I want whatever the solution is to have broad buy-in before I support it financially.
On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
After UDOT announced moving forward with the gondola project, we wanted to see what our community thinks about the proposal.
Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi continues our team coverage tonight after speaking with residents who live near Little Cottonwood Canyon.
The people that I hang with, it's a no. It's no.
Teresa Pentilla lives in Sandy and says she goes up and down Little Cottonwood Canyon pretty often. Her main concern with the gondola project is having enough parking.
I don't know where we're going to park the cars. It's just going to create more congestion someplace else.
It really becomes a burden on our taxes, on our view shed, on the quality of our life, to have extra traffic, to fill up a multi-story or multi-acre parking facility that just would be an intrusion.
Some residents nearby put up signs and banners opposing the construction of the gondola.
There was so much opposition to it, it almost looks like it was a predetermined decision to go ahead with the gondola from the start. I'm not sure how there could have been more negative public opinion towards it.
Wasatch Backcountry Alliance is one of the groups against the gondola, and one of the reasons is because they don't know how many people will actually use it.
We've seen no evidence that people will ride the gondola. The road will still be open. People will still have the ability to ride and drive themselves. The cost estimates that I've heard to ride the gondola are going to be extremely expensive.
Cody Fox with Friends of Alta says he is glad that UDOT has implemented some of the suggestions that came through public comments. He says he wants to see more of that collaborative approach through the process of this project.
What we would like to see is when they're phasing new things in, these small incremental changes, make the public aware of this change is taking place, and then when this change is been implemented, before you start something else, let us reassess, has this been effective?
Well, I think it's kind of a mixed bag for us. On one hand, we are totally opposed to a gondola because we don't see it as a solution to the canyons whatsoever. On the other hand, with the phased approach that they've introduced, I think that there's a real opportunity for people to embrace transit buses in the canyons.
At Little Cottonwood Canyon, I'm Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Alta and Snowbird ski resorts have pushed for the gondola from the very beginning.
For or against, if a gondola does happen, it transforms the look of Utah's original ski canyon. It's a $550 million project that will send riders on an 8-mile journey to Snowbird and Alta, and the money for the project just isn't there yet. And this will not happen quickly. In the interim, congestion up and down the canyon, even in bad weather, will still be a big problem. Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth spoke with Mike Vaughn, president and general manager of Alta, about both of those issues this afternoon. Listen to this.
And my concern is as well, until funding is found, until we get to the point that we can help more people move up and down the canyon, what are we going to do in the short term? Because it's still going to snow, we're still going to have road closures. And that means we'll have gridlock at the mouth of the canyon.
Mon says it's better to have a gondola than a 4-lane highway, and that buses only carry 3% of his skiers, so doubling bus capacity doesn't get many more people up the canyon.
Stay with Fox 13 News as we continue to track all sides of the Little Cottonwood Canyon gondola debate. We'll pass along the latest updates to you here on air, online and at fox13now.com.
Coming up, a new effort from the Salt Lake City Fire Department, how they hope to pair with social workers to respond better to certain calls.
And today was International Overdose Awareness Day. We'll introduce you to a Utah doctor and her program to save lives.
RSL has just 8 games remaining in the regular season with their playoff future in doubt. Big game tonight against Minnesota.
And coming up, still tracking hot temperatures here across the state and the 80s here across the Wasatch Front as you get ready for bed. I'll let you know what you can expect into the overnight hours, and also we'll have more record highs tomorrow.
The fight to end overdoses went global today, and Utahns used International Overdose Awareness Day to stop preventable deaths. Dr. Jennifer Plum has been working to get the overdose medication naloxone into the hands of as many Utahns as possible through her nonprofit, Naloxone Utah. She says since 2015, the nonprofit has and continues to try to destigmatize the use of naloxone. This summer, Dr. Plum says she experienced a first. Parents asking her to get naloxone for their children heading off to college.
This is still a crisis. We are still losing more folks than we've ever lost in the U.S. Please remember, please find ways to support people. Please find ways to potentially save lives.
The latest CDC data shows 571 people in Utah died of overdoses in 2019. By 2020, that number had jumped to 621. That's why Dr. Plum says it's important for people to continue to have meaningful conversations long after International Overdose Awareness Day is over.
The Salt Lake City Fire Department is partnering with social workers to respond better to certain calls. Today, the department announced the Community Health Access Team, also known as CHAT. Social workers will respond to medical calls alongside paramedics and EMTs where there is substance abuse or mental health issues.
We're seeing an increase in some other type of patients now in the city, and that's those who are experiencing substance abuse issues and mental health issues. In those cases, we need to expand our toolbox, and that's where social workers come in.
The chief says this program is the first of its kind in Utah.
A teen fan of The Killers got a huge moment in the spotlight during the band's concert in Salt Lake last night. His dream come true when we come back.
And coming up in sports, BYU QB Jaren Hall will talk about his confidence level, and Mo Diabate will look forward to his future return to the Swamp. And Real Salt Lake with a big game at home as they try to secure a playoff spot. The highlights are on the way.
The dream of playing on stage with your musical idols became a reality for one Utah teen. He got to play the drums last night with The Killers.
Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph shows us how this was more than just a really cool experience. It was a life-changing moment.
It was a rockin' night as The Killers came to town at Vivint Arena. But it became more than just a concert for one person in the crowd.
Salt Lake City, meet Alex. He's from Lehi, Utah.
This is the moment in which Alec Anderson went from normal teenager to rock icon.
It took me a minute to kind of process the fact that like my musical idols were standing right next to me and were like shaking my hand and hugging me.
It all started with another YouTube video from years ago when Brandon Flowers of The Killers gave another kid a chance to play the drums with the band.
So he said, Dad, that's what I want to do, like to get on stage with my superstar.
Maybe if I practice, maybe you think I'd have a shot, Mom? I'm like, yeah, you'd have a shot. And in my head, like, probably a very teeny tiny shot.
As we were driving there, are you sure you got this? He said, I know it like the back of my hand, Dad, yes.
Mom and Dad, Eric and Joni, have encouraged him over the last 3 years, practicing at least twice a week. Then came the moment of truth.
Realistically thought I probably had like a 2% chance of it actually happening. People around started catching on to what was going on really quickly, and they turned on their flashlights and shined it on the poster.
Eric quickly nudged me and said, look, see the lights down there? That's Alec.
Got to the stage really quick, full of adrenaline, kind of shaky.
To put it mildly, he rocked it. But this is more than just a cool story. It's a redemption story for a teen who's been through a lot.
Starting with a really bad mountain bike accident that I had, and my 3 sons were with me. That started for Alec in particular some really significant trauma and anxiety.
The death of a close family friend, along with starting high school amidst the pandemic, wasn't easy.
We found ourselves we're religious people, and just saying, gosh, God, can you give this kid just give him a win?
But it was the Killer's music that helped pull him out. And as he played with his idols who helped him through so much.
Give these people what they want now.
Kind of played my heart out with all that practice that I put into it.
Mom and Dad watched on, waiting for their chance to give him a hug. But
he's got all these people around him that are wanting to take, all these fans wanting to take pictures with him.
So for a young drummer with the experience of a lifetime under his belt, it's a moment that's changed his life for the better and forever.
Kind of felt like my redemption from the 3 years that I've hid away, not being confident, not being myself.
Spencer Joseph.
And being up there just kind of represented to me that
Fox 13 News.
This is it. This is the turning point from the bad few years to now the good rest of my life.
Utah.
He will never forget that.
Yeah.
Oh,
that needs to be a movie or something, doesn't it?
It's great. Yeah. Rock on, Alec.
Cool story. Wow.
Lucky kid. Talented kid.
Very talented. Well, you don't have to be too talented to look at the forecast the next couple of days. I'll boil it all down for you. It's going to be hot here across the week. Now, I've been looking at some extended model data that we'll get to in just a second, but right now, getting ready for bed, it's about 90 degrees here along the Wasatch Front. Now, what we'll be tracking for you the next couple of days, in addition to the heat, I think the other priorities will be wearing your sunscreen. UV index tomorrow will be very high. We're going to keep that very high through the rest of the week. And then we're going to end up with those temperatures really staying hot during the next few afternoons. So as you wake up on Thursday morning, 60s and 70s here across the state with mostly clear sky. And then forecast at a glance for tomorrow, right near 100 degrees for Salt Lake, Ogden, and for Provo. So the extreme heat continues. Cedar City 94, 95 Ridgefield, 107 in St. George. Rinse and repeat from today. 101 in Moab tomorrow, 96 in Price, and for the Uinta Basin, mid to upper 90s. Now, I'm happy to see we're not expecting any flash flooding tomorrow because that is obviously a concern once we've got people who are out recreating, but we're going to miss out on the rain that the rest of the country is seeing over the next week. All of us here out west staying really dry over the course of the next 7 days. Lots of rain expected into Texas. That's going to continue to be a very big headline. Additional flooding concerns there. Now for southern Utah, you're about 105 to 110 through Labor Day. This is not normal. We're normally here in Salt Lake City in the upper 80s. So St. George, we're looking at record temperatures as potential here across the state, close to 110, dangerously hot there. Heat warnings starting at noon tomorrow through Labor Day. Here along the Wasatch Front in the Super 7-day forecast, let's talk about the air quality for tomorrow, because tomorrow we're tracking air quality for Thursday and Friday with mandatory action. If you can work from home, that's a great idea. We're tracking more of this orange air, which is unhealthy for sensitive groups. By Saturday, 102, so we just are keeping this extreme heat around. By Monday, Labor Day, 101 here in Salt Lake City, and our chance of precipitation is really low over the next week. Tomorrow, we could see a few spotty showers across the state, but it's not a good chance, and those would be pretty stray if we do see those. Now, for Tuesday next week, we're still at that century mark, and let's look at our temperature outlook for days 8 to 14. This takes us through the second week of September. This is the 8th of September through the 14th, and we are going to continue with above average temperatures. Maybe not as hot as we are all this week, because this is pretty incredible that we've got a forecast like this when the most triple-digit days we've ever had in September is 3. And we've got a lineup for you over the next week where we very well could definitely beat that in just the first few days of the month. This is definitely unprecedented. By Wednesday next week, 100 degrees, and we're just going to continue with very hot temperatures here across the state. So get out early, stay hydrated, UV index very high, and we have poor air quality. So nice for staying indoors.
Real Salt Lake had a big game at home tonight against Minnesota with just 8 matches to play in the regular season. RSL needed a win tonight to keep pace in the race towards the playoffs. RSL went into the match in 6th place in the West, 5 points behind 3rd place Minnesota. RSL got off to a great start in the 7th minute. Jefferson Savarino sends it in. Sergio Cordova controls it, works it by the defender, shoots and scores. Here's another look at it. Calm and collected in the box. He shoots and scores. RSL up 1-0, and the fans then flooded the field with teddy bears. They were for local charities to help kick childhood cancer. Then in the 23rd minute, Aaron Herrera sends it in, and Savarino was there to put it in for a goal. RSL in great shape, up 2-0 after this great finish from Savarino. RSL out of the 3rd goal in the second half. Andrew Brody with the through ball to Anderson Julio, beats the goalkeeper and scores. RSL won at 3-0. 3 huge points for RSL. It'll be a homecoming for Mo Diabate when he makes his first start at linebacker for the Utes on Saturday against Florida. He played 37 games for the Gators before transferring to Utah, but he's familiar with the visitors' locker room at the Swamp.
During COVID, we had to go there, so I'm familiar with the old janky Florida Gators visitors locker room. I'm excited to see it. I'm really excited to smell the place. You know, it smells that give me the nostalgic feeling. So I'm ready to go there, just take a fresh breath of air and realize where I am and get to work. It's an electric atmosphere. You know, it's one of a kind. I don't think there's any place I can compare to it. I used to love playing there, so I'm excited to go back. You know, it's going to be a great environment. They're going to be out there loud and excited, so it's going to be fun.
Well, BYU quarterback Jaron Hall threw for over 2,500 yards and 20 touchdowns last season. He could have bigger numbers in his junior season. He's the clear starter for the Cougars, and his head coach wants him to let it loose out there after watching some of the plays he made during fall camp.
I like him being aggressive, and I like him taking calculated risks, and I think that's what I saw, a huge improvement from him in camp, and see how it happens on Saturday. But I feel confident in him and his abilities.
Yeah, it gives me confidence. I know that's how our whole offense feels. Kalani trusts us. You know, that's why we do what we do on 3rd down and 4th down. That's why we're so aggressive, and that just breeds confidence amongst your players, I think. And I know that's what he wants for us, to have confidence that he trusts us, that he'll put the game on the line and put it in our hands. And I think it just allows you to play freely, you know, not worry about making mistakes and just go play ball.
Yeah, Jaron could have a really monster year with all the weapons he has on offense. And I love Mo Diabate. He's looking forward to the smell of the Swamp in his return to Florida.
I know, it kind of gives you
nostalgia, he says.
What do you think that smells like?
I wonder.
Whole bunch of football players.
A long period of sweat.
Yeah.
Huh. Sounds good to me.
There you go.
I've been to the Swamp. It is a great atmosphere.
Okay.
It really is.
Of course.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Thanks, as always, for being with us.
QuickCast is next.